Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's time for Upon Further Review. And we know what that means. It means broke down the All-22 film and went through and found out, what went right, what went wrong for the 49ers. And, I'm sure you know this. A lot more went wrong for the 49ers than went right. Now, of course, there were still some good things. There were still some good performances, certain players stepping up and making plays. But for the most part, this was a 49ers team that was outplayed by the Green Bay Packers. And it's just that simple. Some of the plays just didn't go the 49ers' way. They were out-executed. They were out-game planned. And as far as the 49ers' defense was out-game planned in the first half, we'll talk a lot about what LaFleur did in the running game. It was a very significant game plan, and they executed at a high level. What we saw from Green Bay was a team that took advantage of the advantage that they had on offense and defense. And for the 49ers, they ran into some problems. And some of that could be that they're missing key players, which they were. And you don't like to make excuses when you're talking about players being out. But the reality of the situation is every player you miss, it's a little bit more difficult to overcome them being not being on the field. And when you look at your offense and you don't have Trent Williams, that's one thing. You've got to make sure Jalen Moore plays well, and you got a game plan to help him. And you can somewhat overcome that. Brandon Ayuk being out, you learn how to overcome that with your wide receivers. We've seen them do that. But overcoming Brock Purdy could potentially be something you just can't overcome. And we've seen the 49ers be able to overcome injuries to the starting quarterback at some points, right? You get the injury to Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo, who had been a good starter for the Niners, steps in, does pretty well. When he gets injured, Brock Purdy steps in. But it's not very often that you have two starting caliber quarterbacks as backups. And I think in this scenario, Brandon Allen just couldn't live up to the expectations that Kyle Shanahan had for him. And I think Kyle was hoping he was going to be able to create some easy opportunities for Brandon Allen to get the ball out quickly and the 49ers to get some good drives going. And he thought that if he could get something going, they could hang around, they'd have a chance to win at the end. What he didn't know was that the defense was going to struggle early on, and Green Bay was going to have complete control of this football game until probably the end of the second quarter when the 49ers finally got a drive going. So defense didn't help the 49ers out a lot. Offense didn't help the defense out at all in the first part of this game. 2 straight 3-and-outs. It was just really not that good. So all the coaching points, I'm going to be going through all those, all the things that I saw, things that need to get better. I'm going to keep it as honest as possible. It's Tell Your Truth Monday, or Tell the Truth Monday. You always got to tell the truth on what you see on film, and that's what's going to be reflected in this episode. I'm not sugarcoating. I'm just telling you what I see. I also have no narrative. So if you're looking for a certain type of narrative, I'm not going to give that to you. I'm just going to give you exactly what I saw on film and just put that out there for you. So please like and subscribe to the channel if you think I deserve it. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. If you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball to NHL, UFC, and MMA. Head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. And I do want to start with Brandon Allen. And I take into account Brandon Allen is a backup quarterback, and you can't expect him to play as good as Brock Purdy. But what are the expectations that we have for him? We've seen the 49ers backup quarterbacks before, whether that is Nick Mullins, who had some games he played well and some games he struggled. But in recent memory, a guy like Sam Darnold, who was able to run the 49ers offense and run it pretty good. And then you see Brock Purdy, who is just a different animal, right? Because Brock Purdy's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. But when he takes over as a rookie, it's a little bit of a different scenario. So we can't expect that from Brandon Allen. But what can we expect from Brandon Allen? Well, we could have expected was a guy to go out there and be able to run the offense efficiently. He's been in the offense for a couple years now. He should understand this offense. He should understand when he comes to the line of scrimmage, when to can and when not to get the 49ers into the right play at the right time, and then just to execute the offense at a high level. I fully expected to be a lot of throws underneath, a lot of high percentage throws as Kyle Shanahan would try to get some easy looks for Brandon Allen. And we saw some of that. But we saw also was just real ineffective play from Brandon Allen. He just had a hard time locating open wide receivers. It just never seemed to be comfortable. When I was breaking it down on the All-22, I'm just like looking, oh, here's Kittle open. He's in the progression. You're looking that way. You're just not throwing the football. Oh, here we go. There's Jawan Jennings on the deep crosser. Oh, you're not throwing the football. And one of Brandon Allen's problems was he didn't throw with anticipation. You saw balls behind wide receivers. You saw balls at their feet, ball get there late, and that was a real issue for him. And even when Kyle Shanahan did scheme it up perfectly, sometimes he would just look at the wrong side of the field. So a lot of times with the route concepts, you have one side of the field that's predetermined to give you a certain look, and they don't have to one be a man beater and one be a zone beater. They can both be zone beaters, but maybe one is better against a certain coverage, a cover 3. This one's better against a cover 2. And then you decipher which one at the line of scrimmage by what the defense is showing you, which side of the play you want to go to. Now, sometimes you're just going to get an even look, and it's just going to be you pick the one that's the best matchup. What we got from Brandon Allen was something I haven't seen a lot since Brock Purdy took over. This is not something Brock normally misses on. It's occasional here and there, so when it happens, you really take note, is looking at the wrong side of the field on what would have been a natural progression on the other side. And so, for instance, you would get Brandon Allen, they would have 3 receivers to one side, 2 to the other. And one of the plays that's the most important is the Christian McCaffrey ball that they have a 4th down, 4th and 3. You got Jawan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey in a stack set to the left. And we know that they had worked that early on in the game with McCaffrey and Kittle, and it worked for a first down. So they run a similar concept over to the left side this time, and we know that Brandon Allen's going to stare that side down. Now, he looks for Jawan. Jawan is covered. Good coverage. It's also covered on Christian McCaffrey, but here's the problem. Brandon Allen made the wrong read. The read pre-snap showed you go to the 3 receiver side. And how do I know? Because when I was breaking it down, I said to myself and then said aloud on the recording, we're going to break it. We want to look to the right side because that's where you have the numbers. That's where you have the matchup issue. If he would have read that side like he's supposed to pre-snap, he would have had George Kittle for a wide open first down. And I'm not talking there's a guy within 3 yards. I'm talking there's not a guy within 7 yards. So he worked the wrong side of the progression. That was a constant theme for Brandon Allen in this football game. It wasn't just that he was making some errant throws or some errant reads. He was also making errant pre-snap reads as well. He also canned some plays and put the 49ers in some bad looks. So that is something I wasn't expecting from a veteran player who's been in the league for a long time and played a lot of football, but also been in Kyle Shanahan's system for 2 years. I was expecting him to at least understand where to go with the football pre-snap. And Green Bay wasn't throwing a lot of unique disguises and unique looks at him. It was pretty easy. What you saw was what you got. Even the safety coming in the box or vacating the box, he was leaving early or coming late. Like you could see him coming. It was being telegraphed. So it wasn't something Brandon Allen shouldn't have been able to handle, but he couldn't. You throw in the fact he's not elusive. He's not able to really move the pocket. His pocket awareness wasn't that good. And it made him a sitting duck in the pocket. And that was really tough. And it wasn't all his fault that he was getting so much pressure. The offensive line helped with that as well. But it was just really frustrating because I felt like Kyle did his best job of trying to give Brandon Allen some real easy looks. And there was easy looks there. He just didn't do what he was supposed to do to get there. And so I think that was really frustrating, him not doing what he should. And Green Bay, they knew what they were going to get from Brandon Allen. They knew that they weren't going to get a quarterback that was going to be able to consistently win. So they came in and they loaded the box, and they said, all right, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, you guys aren't beating us. we are going to make Brandon Allen and that right arm beat us. And he wasn't capable. He just couldn't get it done. And I think that this is one of those things that Kyle Shanahan's got to think about if Brock Purdy's not able to go against Buffalo. And the expectation now, I think from what we've heard with Brock Purdy getting in some light throwing on Monday and having no pain, is there's probably a good chance Brock Purdy plays on Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. But if it's not, there should be a real conversation about Joshua Dobbs playing because of his ability to extend plays, use his legs to get extra yards, but also just to move the pocket and create an extra dynamic that a defense has to account for. Because right now there's nothing they have to account for with a quarterback like Brandon Allen. That's one thing that Brock Purdy leads to the offense, is also his ability to operate in the pocket. Now, it could be that Kyle Shanahan put together a game plan that was completely planned for Brock Purdy, and because he wasn't ready to go on Thursday and they ruled him out on Friday, that his plan for Brandon Allen to play meant it was smarter to keep Brandon Allen in the game because he runs more of a similar offense to Brock Purdy than Josh Dobbs. But I think going into Buffalo, there needs to be a game plan in case Brock Purdy's not ready to play Josh Dobbs and use his legs as a weapon in this game, not just with his ability to scramble, but also some designed runs as well. So I think that the 49ers are going to have a decision to make when it comes to quarterback. And I think I've seen enough of Brandon Allen. I don't think that Brandon Allen is a backup quarterback that can win you football games. I do believe Josh Dobbs is, but that's for Kyle Shanahan and his coaching staff to determine. And I don't know where Josh Dobbs is as far as learning the system. And I get it, Brandon Allen's been in the system for 2 years. But I think Dobbs has started more games recently and has proven he can go out and win games for you if you need it. So I think that was something there. I do believe the 49ers offensive line definitely struggled a little bit in pass protection. I saw Jake Brendel end up on his backside. Jake Brendel did not have a good game. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. But I didn't think overall it was a great game in pass protection from the 49ers. Some of that because of Brandon Allen not getting rid of the football on time the normal way Brock Purdy would, or slipping and falling, or dropping the football. Like, those things complicated and compounded issues for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, with that loaded box came some opportunities for some explosive plays that Brandon Allen absolutely missed. And I'll talk about the first one, probably one that everyone remembers. Second half, 49ers have an opportunity. They get a play action fake, and Chris Conley is one-on-one down the field with a safety. And the guy is trailing, and Conley has got a lot of open field. And this is why I know a lot of people wanted pass interference. I didn't feel it was pass interference on the play, but I did feel that Brandon Allen made one of his worst throws of the entire game. So he's running up the left hash mark, and there is no safety, no help to the middle of the field. The closest guy is the cornerback playing the deep third on the other side of the field to the far right, and he is playing in a medium intermediate range. So for him to be able to get there, it's going to take a lot. There's no way he gets there on a pass. Brandon Allen and every quarterback that plays quarterback since they have been in youth football or high school, you teach them to throw away from the coverage. In this situation, he has plenty of time and a clean pocket that he can step up and deliver a football down the field. And if he leads him to the other hash mark, so he's on the left, if he leads him to the right hash mark, this is going to be a catch for Chris Conley, and it could be a touchdown for Chris Conley because he is creating separation, and if he leads him away, it could create more separation and a catch. Brandon Allen makes a terrible throw. So a ball naturally from a right-hander will rotate to give it a direction of to the right. It'll rotate that direction. He started it so far on the opposite side of the hash mark that when it did do that, it landed on the hash mark, and Chris Conley was expecting to break across the middle, had to kind of try to go back, and he's the one that created the contact with the defender. It was just not a good look. That was an explosive call by Kyle Shanahan that could have changed this football game, and there's a couple of plays in this game that could have changed the momentum and maybe the outlook. I'm not saying the 49ers would have won. I'm not sure they played well enough to win, but it definitely could have been more convoluted if they made a couple of plays, that being one of them. He also missed George Kittle up the seam. It's a third down situation, and you're going against a cover three. And this is one of those situations. He works a concept to the left, He's got George Kittle on the right. It's a cover 3 defense. Kittle works the seam, and he is wide open for what could be, it's at least a first down, but he's one-on-one with the safety. And we know what George Kittle does in the open space. Brandon Allen looks the other way and throws an incomplete pass. Another explosive play missed. There are 3 or 4, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 off the top of my head, Debo and Jauan Jennings on deep in routes, the Dover route, wide open. I like to call them digs. If you run that deep dig, it's open. Brandon Allen one time slips and misses Jauan Jennings. Another time, he just doesn't wait in the pocket and takes off running too early and moves in the pocket and escapes and doesn't hang in there and misses an opportunity. There were deep plays down the field set up for the 49ers to have explosives, and Brandon Allen missed. So it was definitely not a great game for Brandon Allen. I don't think he showed anything on film that makes the 49ers feel comfortable with him being quarterback moving forward. So they're definitely going to have to figure that out. And he just missed some opportunities. Now, I did like that Kyle threw in some wrinkles on that third drive, especially you got the jet sweep into the reverse to Pearsall, throw him back to Allen. And what's crazy, right? Brandon Allen, he has George Kittle down the field, could be an explosive, doesn't throw that, throws the screen to Debo, which I love. Debo's got a shot to take it to the house. He gets inside the 20. I like that look from Kyle Shanahan. It was something different, something to kind of get things going, and it was a nice play design to see Debo Samuel get some opportunity. If George Kittle was wide open downfield for a touchdown, you throw it downfield. The offensive linemen stayed behind the line of scrimmage like they're supposed to. Well done. If not, hey, take the high percentage throw to Debo. Debo starts with the ball in the jet sweep and ends up with the ball on the screen. It was a great look. And to cap off that touchdown drive, so the play before, Brandon Allen misses Jauan Jennings on a touchdown. So I'll set the tone. 49ers are inside the 10-yard line. And on second down, they run a play that has a two-man concept on the left side. It's Ricky Pearsall, and he's running a exit route. And so then you've got on the top side, you've got Jauan Jennings running a slant pass to the inside. Jennings wins. Ricky Pearsall pulls the defender away, and the safety's reading the other side because Brandon Allen is reading George Kittle the whole time. That play is completely taken away. The outside leverage on George Kittle for that route, that corner route, should have let Brandon Allen know, I need to work back to Jauan early. He didn't. And so then he misses Jauan Jennings. He actually throws it over the top of George Kittle out of bounds, and you get nothing. So the next play, Kyle, seeing the way that the defense reacted, dials up a play where this time he puts Kittle on the other side, and he's going to have a 3-man look on that side. He has somebody that's going to run to the corner. He has George Kittle who's going to run the post pattern right to the goalpost, and then he has Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield. So what happens is Brandon Allen does a great job on this one. He looks to the right side where he has Debo in double coverage and Jauan running to the corner. And by looking that way, the safety, be like he did the play before, completely jumps on that. Now, with McCaffrey coming out, and this is the wrinkle that Kyle adds, with McCaffrey coming out, it puts Quay Walker, the middle linebacker, in a vertical stretch, and Walker has to step slightly forward on McCaffrey, and then McCaffrey breaks out. When he does, Walker has to flow with him and create a bigger window. So when Allen looks to the right and comes back to the middle, George Kittle's wide open. Now, we could have gotten a better throw from Brandon Allen. Kittle shouldn't have had to jump up and make it that interesting. Put it right between the 8-5, and it's a big-time touchdown. But it's a great play call. It's great execution, but it's understanding what the defense was going to try to do to you, and he did a very good job. And then Brandon Allen did a good job on that play, looking off and going to the open receiver. So that was something that I really liked. So those two plays I thought were very creative on that drive and really helped the 49ers get into the end zone and make it a game. 17-7, that's tough, but you're getting the ball coming out. I thought that was something that was very impressive. First half, 49ers very ineffective in the run game. We talked about the 8-man box, but Brendel, Banks, and Pooney, it's not as bad, but Brendel and Banks continue to struggle. I actually felt that this is probably Jake Brendel's worst game of the entire season. It just wasn't good. He was struggling when it came to run blocking. He was getting put on his backside in pass protection, in run blocking. He had another play in this game that if he was able to hold a block on Quay Walker, Christian McCaffrey would have ran for 30 or 40 yards on the play, and who knows what else. Quay Walker's the one that gets there, and they create a huge seam for Christian McCaffrey, and it was kind of the thing, right? It was Aaron Banks made a mistake like that. Jake Brendel made several. It was very frustrating. Now, it was a better game for Juice blocking on the edge than it had been like last week or the week before, but he still had a couple of plays here and there, but he's battling defensive ends and working hard, so I give him a little bit more freedom where Brendel, that's literally your job. Go block those interior defensive linemen. I didn't think he did a great job in this game. It was frustrating. I think he's frustrated with himself. So some key mistakes by Jake Brendel and Banks, and a couple here and there by Pooney. It wasn't a clean game for Pooney by any stretch, and now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. That is going to be monitored through the week, so that's something to keep an eye on. He's dealing with that. The Deommodore Lenoir dealing with the knee, if you guys are wondering about some of the injury things. Good news, though, Dre Greenlaw's practice window is going to be opened. Bad news, John Feliciano, he's not coming off IR. He's done for the season. Kyle Shanahan kind of said his knee is just never really recovering. So I don't know what's happening there. We'll see. Maybe they reach an injury settlement, or maybe he really just is injured and it's not coming back and they just can't get that knee right. I know he's close to retirement, so it might end up forcing his retirement. So we've got to get better play from the center position. And I think that everyone now has to come to, the conclusion. I don't think anyone really is fighting this. That right now they need an upgrade at center over Jake Brendel. I think John Feliciano for a lot of people would have been that guy, but now that he's not coming back, I don't know if they have that guy on the team. I don't know if Nick Zakelj can play better than Jake Brendel at the center position. Maybe in the run game, but I worry about him in pass protection. But Brendel struggled in pass protection in this game as well. But when it came down to it, too many mistakes and turnovers were the 49ers undoing. Debo, should have made that catch on that interception. That's a tight window throw, and Brandon Allen absolutely put it, a lot of force behind it. Debo trying to do the 360 pirouette, ball bounces off, it is intercepted. That was a huge one. I tend to think that when a wide receiver gets their hands on the ball, they should catch it. I do also believe that Brandon Allen should have thrown the ball to Ronnie Bell, who was in front. And I know it's Ronnie Bell, but he was out there and he was tasked with the route and he was open. It would have been 2 yards in front of the sticks, but he catches it. Maybe he gets the first down. If not, he makes it an interesting 4th and 1. Instead, it's a turnover on the play. So I think it was compounded by that mistake. Now on defense, I talked about the 49ers first half struggles, and they just couldn't slow down that running game. Matt LaFleur had a really great game plan. He was taking advantage of the 49ers movement with their linebackers with motion, but also getting them to react to multiple guys going different directions. A jet sweep that way, and you're flowing with it, and then all of a sudden they're running back underneath. It was really good disguise, and then it complemented what he was doing up front with the blocking. And I thought he kept the 49ers guessing the whole time. 2 running back looks with 2 tailbacks, which 49er fans have been calling for several weeks. Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey, that's what they've been wanting. Well, they were doing that. They had 2 running backs out there, 2 tailbacks, and they were doing it pretty well. And to be honest with you, the second running back was blocking Wilson. He was blocking really well in this football game. So I thought they executed the game plan well. And I think you saw the defense adjust. I know that the Packers scored 38, but if you look at the 38 points, a lot of the points in the second half came off turnovers. You had critical mistakes. You had a fumble that was inside the red zone. That ended up being a touchdown from Brandon Allen. You had the interception that got returned down near the red zone. That ended up being a touchdown. It was a lot of touchdowns off turnovers. Christian McCaffrey fumble, that ends up being a touchdown. But 21 points in the second half were all off 49er turnovers. So the offense did the 49ers defense no favors, but the 49ers defense did themselves no favors in the first half. And a lot of it was adjusting to some of the things that they were doing. And they just couldn't bring down Josh Jacobs either. I mean, that dude was running. I mean, he is a beast. We remember that game with the Raiders. The dude's a monster, and he ran really good in this game. I thought that there were some moments that we saw good play from the 49ers, but for the most part in the first half, it was a real struggle to get Jacobs down. I thought they did a lot better in the second half. That's for sure. 49ers soft cover sometimes created easy opportunities underneath on the outside. I think we saw Renardo Green and Isaac Gedem give a little bit too much depth in this game. I get it. You got to respect, Dobbs and Christian Watson especially. And we've seen him cook Isaac Yedem in this game for what should have been a touchdown. If it wasn't for Watson just dropping the football, it was a perfect throw by Jordan Love. But I thought that they gave a little bit too much cushion. And some of the reason I think that is because you play off, that's fine. But you've got to be able to hold your ground. You can't just keep giving all that cushion, even more cushion, and giving like 10-yard splits. And I thought I gave up some easy first down throws underneath on, to Reed and Dobbs that could have been a little bit tighter. So I thought those were a little bit of an issue. Now, I have a real criticism of Nick Sorensen in this game, and it comes down to personnel groupings. So one of the keys with personnel groupings is making sure you have matchups that benefit your team. Now, we've seen Nick Sorensen love to go with a two-eye safety look against, obvious rundowns and be able to get stops. And when that works, the 49ers are very good on defense. But in this football game, it had less to do about what coverage they were in and more about the guys who were on the field. So I brought up earlier that the Green Bay Packers were running 2 running back sets. So Josh Jacobs, Wilson on the field, and others. And you get these looks that are unique. Now, most teams, when they get a 21 personnel, which that's what it is, right? You get 2 running backs, 1 tight end. You stay in your base package. The 49ers have an affinity to get into nickel and allow De'Amari Lenore to help in the run game, and normally does a really good job. But I thought in this game that was a mistake. They should have stayed with D. Winters. They should have stayed with their base package because we knew the goal of the game was to stop the run. They should have put the onus on Jordan Love to consistently throw the ball and beat you down the field. Put the onus on your secondary. Instead, he allowed the Green Bay Packers to get some really good looks in the running game because Wilson and Jacobs could block as well. And so what you got was some mismatches in size, and you got some key blocks from running backs and from wide receivers that you wouldn't have normally had against a guy like D. Winters. If all of a sudden a wide receiver like Christian Watson is having to block D. Winters or Devondre Campbell, they're going to shed the block and make the play. But if it's a De'Amari Lenore, those bigger bodies have an opportunity to block him out. We've seen the Rams do this a lot with Cooper Kupp, with Puka Nacua through the years. And so you saw this happen in Green Bay. It was, like I said, a good scheme by LaFleur, but I think it's compounded by the fact the 49ers unwilling to stay in their base sets in 21 personnel when it was 2 tailbacks. I didn't like that. And I also thought that, they did it with 12 personnel. They went to their 4-3 defense with D. Winters, but I thought that was a real problem, and I thought they could have changed it for sure. So that wasn't something I liked. And if you don't want to put D. Winters on the field because you're worried about coverage reasons, right? We know D. Winters is one of the most athletic linebackers you have on the team. Well, you have Tashawn Gibson on your active roster. Put Tashawn Gibson out there. Go 3 safeties, and then Tashawn Gibson can help you cover one of those guys in space and is a little bit more physical in the run game playing around the box. We've seen him do it last year against Detroit. He has the big hit in the line of scrimmage that causes the fumble. So I just don't understand that look when you have a competent third safety and a competent third linebacker to not go ahead and take away that run. You have able bodies that are able to handle it. So to me, that didn't make a lot of sense. Plus, that would have pulled Isaac Yedem off the field and allowed Renardo Green and De'Amari Lenore to play on the outside against 21 personnel, which is your best cover group. I don't know why you needed Tucker Kraft to be covered by De'Amari Lenore. I just don't get it. So to me, that didn't make a lot of sense, and I was very, very critical watching that on film. Now, the other thing that I have, and this has been a criticism, for a couple of weeks now. I started bringing it up last week. If you have Patreon, I brought it up on my film breakdowns. But I don't understand why when the 49ers get to 3rd and really long, and I'm not talking 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, I'm talking 3rd and 10 plus, why they don't go to a dime look. And what is a dime? Well, we know the nickel, right, pulls a linebacker off the field and puts the nickel corner on, which in our case, Yedem comes on, Lenore goes to nickel. But with dime, you pull another linebacker off. Well, when you're 3rd and long like that, I get it. You want Devondre Campbell for his tackling ability, but he's not as fast in space. So a lot of people have argued, why don't we have D. Winters? Well, I would like to argue, why don't we have a dime corner go out there or a safety? Run a heavy nickel with 3 safeties. because the odds are they're going to throw with that type of formation. If they do run, you've got a guy who's fast in space that can help make a tackle. So this is one of the personnel grouping things I don't understand again. So we have 2 in a row, 21 personnel for the Packers. I don't understand why we're not in our base set or at least putting a third safety. And here we got another situation where the 49ers should be in dime and they're playing nickel. They don't play any dime. They need to go ahead and be willing to pull Devondre Campbell off in dime situations because he could really help. Plus, you get another speed guy out there that if you want to blitz, great. But it could make for some unique, flexible coverages. So sometimes make it to Sean Gibson. Sometimes they've been willing to play Rock Yassin anyways. Put Rock Yassin out there. Now you get a third guy that can help, or an extra guy cover in coverage. 6 defensive backs. And I don't know why the 49ers haven't been willing to do that. But I think they need to do that a lot more. They need to have more personnel groupings that really help this football team. And I get it. You're worried about tackling. Well, you've got Deshaun Gibson. He's a really good tackler. Put him out there in space. There's no reason that you can't have Deshaun Gibson instead of Devondre Campbell. If they go to run the ball, he's going to run the ball in space anyways. You can make the tackle. So to me, those are some things I don't like. I think that would give the 49ers a lot more flexibility, create some different matchups that you like, where you don't get caught in bad situations, which the 49ers did, but also you could play tighter coverage because all of a sudden, instead of having to play, a little bit off if you're Renardo Green to worry about something, you go play tight coverage, and the 49ers can still play man underneath with a 2-eye safety look so you don't get burned in those big situations. That's one thing I really think has just been frustrating for me. Now, 49ers defensive tackles, I thought they had some good plays and some bad plays. I really wanted to highlight the flashes that we got from Clea Davis and Evan Anderson. I thought they continue to duplicate what they did last week. We saw really good in the backfield, creating some opportunities from Clea Davis. Evan Anderson working against double teams and doing a good job holding his ground for the most part. Of course, both of them struggle at times and have losses, but I think we're seeing trends where they're making good plays and flashes, which is good, especially if they're going to be a rotational part of the defensive line. The good news is Kevin Givens might practice this week. He's been dealing with the groin injury. That would be a huge upgrade for the 49ers, so I like that, him coming back. But yeah, I thought Clea Davis and Evan Anderson did pretty good. Not consistent enough yet, but good. I thought the defensive line played really well in the third quarter and the first part of the fourth. I thought that the first half of the game, they struggled. Jordan Elliott, Malik Collins, Clea Davis, Evan Anderson, I thought they got moved off their spots a little bit too much, washed with the movement of the offensive line. I thought the offensive line did a really good job of double teaming at the point of attack and creating some opportunities to get some movement along the 49ers defensive line. So they battled, they competed, but I thought they struggled early on, and I thought later in the game again, it started to kind of go that direction again, but they were doing their best. Leonard Floyd continued to play well, getting 2 sacks in this football game. That means he has 3.5 sacks in the last 2 games. He's coming on strong, and so they do need that from him. Nick Bosa continues to be monitored with the oblique injury. Don't know if he's going to be playing this week. Kyle Shanahan, no updates on him or Trent Williams. So we'll see how that goes this week. But Leonard Floyd making some plays. And it's not the whole shot, get home right away. That's not always there. But he's being able to come around on stunts, locate the quarterback, and get him to the ground. And that's been huge. Nearly had a strip sack in this game. Had a couple other times where he put really good pressure on Jordan Love. But I think that Floyd is playing really well right now. 49ers had some missed opportunities on defense as well. Jair Brown and Renardo Green, they should have had interceptions. For Jair Brown, it was a great disguise from Nick Sorensen, and Jordan Love thought he was going to get a cover 3 with Jair Brown on the flat, and he's sitting right there in the spot. All he has to do is go up and make the catch. He did not. That should have been an interception. And for Renardo Green, it's a little bit tougher. Comes off Romeo Dobbs' hands, and he's right there. It tips off his hands, and Renardo Green has it bounce off his hands. It should have been an interception. Those could have been 2 key interceptions. Both of them would have been huge for the 49ers. The first one for sure, or the second one, Jair Brown, that one should have been the 49ers ball on the other side of the 50. So that would have been huge in Packers territory with a chance to score. That would have been a huge momentum shift in this football game. And momentum shifts were huge overall. And same with Renardo Green. It could have been a huge momentum shift. 49ers were still hanging around at the time. So both those interceptions would have been pivotal. Speaking of Renardo Green, That was not pass interference against Romeo Doubs. It's just not. Romeo Doubs sticks his arm out and fully extends with a straight arm against Renardo Green. Renardo Green, in kind, grabs his wrist for control. Then they both let go, and they go down the field. Renardo Green gets his head around for the football and reaches up and swipes at the football with minimal contact. Nothing about that play is wrong. If you want to call pass interference, you could call it on either guy. That's why you don't call it at all. Romeo Doubs extending his arm. We saw George Kittle get called for that in the Super Bowl in 2019. You extend that arm. It happens all the time. But if you're going to allow that offensive player to extend his arm, you have to allow the defensive player to disengage that arm from his chest. That natural separation can't be created by an arm like that. So this should have been a no call. This was a terrible call by a referee that really struggled. And I wasn't a huge fan of referees. And you have me on Patreon, the Ant Hill Show, you will know that I have been upset with the consistency around the NFL. Not so much the calls per se, but the fact that from one crew to the next, you don't know what is going to be highlighted. One week, both teams have to adjust to holding not being called at all. The next week, it's hypercritical. Everything is a hold. And I think that's frustrating for teams as they're trying to navigate. But in this case, in every scenario, this should have been a no call. What a great play by Renardo Green. If I was a coach and I was showing this exact film, I would tell Renardo Green, keep doing that. This referee should have never called that penalty. It was a huge mistake, and it was on third down. That should have forced a Green Bay Packers field goal, and that was coming off a 49ers turnover. Defense should have had to stop. Were bailed out by that pass interference call. It was not pass interference. Can't have that happen where you allow a receiver to get separation. So I just wanted to give Renardo Green a little bit of respect there. And speaking of special teams and penalties, that was not a penalty by Eric Saubert. It's not. That was a great block, a pancake block by Eric Saubert. That's exactly how you draw it up. Nothing about that play was a hold, and the referees went out there looking for something. They called way too many special teams penalties in this game. They were out there to look and just think that there's special teams penalties the whole game. That was not. Deebo Samuel should have had a return inside the 10-yard line, and that would have changed the way the second half looked. At worst, the 49ers walk away 17-10, down 7 after that. At best, it's 17-14, and it's a whole new game for the 49ers and Packers. So I thought that was a huge call in this football game. It was not holding. There was plenty of other calls they got correct, that were, but that was not one of them. That was one of the most interesting calls in this football game that I'm still trying to figure out how that was a hold. And I keep wondering how the NFL doesn't have something in place that can say, look, you guys missed it. We've got to get it right. We need to now have an official that evaluates this stuff. I don't understand how the XFL can get this right, and the NFL, being a multi-billion-dollar business, can't get it right. And I think it goes both ways. I think that there are plenty of calls that will also go in the 49ers' favor during a season that really shouldn't, and I just want to get it right. I think that there's plays like this, and doesn't the NFL want explosive, exciting plays? Isn't this the perfect opportunity for the 49ers to see one of their dynamic kickoff returns work? We just saw Kevontae Turpin have a big touchdown, and it could have been a huge play for the 49ers and make the game so much more exciting, but yet we make a terrible call. How can we not have this thing corrected by someone in New York? It's one of the most frustrating things, and I think it should be something that is looked at. I think the NFL needs to get an independent referee that is at every single game that watches the monitor, and he can just say, hey, that wasn't a hold. Go ahead and pick up that flag. Or, hey, that wasn't pass interference. Go ahead and pick up that flag and stuff like that. And it can go both ways. I mean, both teams should benefit from that. If it's not really a penalty, it shouldn't be called. And, these guys are watching things happen really quickly, but this is their job. I know they're going to make mistakes, but why not make sure they don't? And so that's something I want to see from the NFL. I don't know if they'll ever do it because they don't want to pay extra money and all they care about is the bottom line. But you would think they'd care about getting it right and having explosive plays that are really exciting. So thanks, guys, for watching. Upon further review, my coaching points of the All-22 film, I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're using an audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.